Hi Underdogs, welcome back to Underdogs Rise, the podcast where we rise together. I'm so grateful that you're here, because today I want to ask you a question that has challenged me for much of my life. Which comes first? A peaceful mind or a peaceful heart? Because for years of my life I chased peace through just my thoughts. I believe that if I could just think differently, if I could stop overthinking, if I could silence my anxiety and become mentally stronger, everything inside of me would just feel calmer. But no matter how much I tried to control my thoughts, something always seemed to pull me back there. And it wasn't my mind that was crying out, it was my heart. And maybe you've experienced that too. We've read the books, we've listened to the podcast, and when we have repeated the affirmations, and yet something still feels unsettled. Not because you're broken, because there are parts of our heart that are still waiting to be heard. You see, our mind remembers the facts, or the interpretation of those facts, but our heart always remembers other feelings and how it felt. Your mind may forget the words that someone may have said to you, but your heart always remembers how they made you feel. It remembers the rejection, the abandonment, the shame. And many of us spend years trying to outthink emotional pain. But emotions themselves, they don't just disappear when you ignore them. They wait, and they wait patiently, until you're finally willing to listen. Healing isn't pretending the pain never happened. Healing is more about becoming safe enough to feel it without letting it define you. As children, we didn't choose those survival strategies. We adapted. Some of us became people pleasers or perfectionists, or learned just to stay silent. And some built walls, so many walls, so high that nobody could ever hurt them again. And these weren't weaknesses. They were brilliant survival strategies and responses. But what protected us once as a child can imprison us when we become adults. Survival asks us, what do I need to do so I won't get hurt again? But a peaceful heart asks, what would love ask of me to do now? And that's a very different question. Because one is built around fear and the other is built around trust. And trust itself isn't just about believing that life will never hurt you again. Trust is about believing that with whatever happens, you'll be able to meet it. Sometimes we imagine peace as being this absence of emotion. And I've done that. No sadness, no anger, or no fear. But that's not peace. That's numbness. A peaceful heart can still feel grief. It still cries. Still gets disappointed and still feels anxious sometimes. The difference is it no longer fights every emotion. It chooses to allow those emotions just to move through instead of becoming trapped inside. Because I did that. I did that for decades of my life. And that's where the real strength is. Let the emotions move through you. That is a skill. And that is a skill that we can all learn. Something remarkable happens when we learn to soften our hearts, because our mind begins to open too. Because when we're experiencing fear, it narrows our thinking. But love expands it. And when our heart begins to feel safe, it allows us to think more deeply and to feel more deeply. And our minds become more curious instead of being defensive. You stop asking yourself, what if everything goes wrong? And you slowly begin to ask, what if my life could become something more than my past? Growth begins with permission. Permission to become someone new. And permission to let old identities go. I'd like you to pause for a moment and place your hands gently over your heart and just to take a slow breath in and another. And to ask yourself quietly, what has my heart been trying to tell me that my mind has been interrupting? And don't rush the answer. Just listen. Maybe your heart wants rest, or forgiveness, or courage, or honesty. Or simply it just wants you to stop abandoning yourself. Whatever comes up, meet it with compassion and not judgment. Because every day we stand at a crossroads of fear or love, control or trust, or protection or connection. Neither choice, neither of those changes your past. But one of them can change our future. Because healing doesn't happen just in one traumatic moment. It happens every time you choose compassion for yourself instead of criticism. Presence instead of avoiding it. Truth instead of pretending. And little by little your heart begins to believe, I'm safe now. I'm safe now. Perhaps peace of mind isn't the destination after all. Perhaps peace of heart is where healing, true healing, begins. Because when your heart finally feels accepted, your mind doesn't have to fight so hard anymore. Today, don't ask yourself to become perfect. Ask yourself, how can I become kinder to the person who's been carrying all of this? Because the person you've been waiting for to save you has been inside of you all along. I just want to thank you for spending these moments with me. And if today's episode spoke to your heart, please share it with someone who might need this reminder. Because here at Underdogs Rise, we don't just heal by pretending we've never been wounded. We truly heal by making a choice of choosing love over fear. One heartbeat, one courageous step at a time. Until next time, underdogs rise, and we rise together.